And welcome back. With us right now is author Diane Masson, and I know we've shown this book many times. You should pick one up. Your Senior Housing Options, right there, and you can find that online. Am I right? Amazon, places like that. Is there a Kindle edition?
There is a Kindle edition.
There's a Kindle edition. All right. So just to let you know, and your website, of course, is tipstoseniors.com. Nice to see you today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, and we were commenting earlier. We're both in our, I want to say maybe hoping for fall colors, because we like this weather right now. Of course, we know we got some warm weather on the way, but we're being optimistic.
We are.
Yes. All right, so today we are going to talk about different levels of care in senior housing. And you wanted to talk about what you call the basic 3 levels of care in senior housing, so people can kind of understand, and that it does get confusing for a lot of people about those different levels, right?
It can be. So let me see if I can simplify it. And so independent living is kind of considered the first level, and that somebody in an independent setting would be just like somebody living in a 55-plus community, where they are going to their own doctor's appointments, they're driving, they're making their own decisions, they belong to clubs, maybe they dance, they make their own food, they're just very active and independent, okay? And then as somebody ages and they need more support, what assisted living is it's like independent living with 24-hour support. So they can help with the activities of daily living like bathing, dressing, medication management, 3 meals a day. And so an example of assisted living would be somebody who's had a couple of falls. They are concerned that they're going to fall in the middle of the night, nobody's going to find them. And so they might want to be in a more supportive environment where there's people there around the clock, 24 hours. So that's what assisted living is. And then skilled nursing can be one of 2 things. A lot of people think it's a death sentence and that's the end and you're going to skilled nursing, but a lot of people don't realize that there's a rehab part of it where maybe you go to the hospital and you have a knee replacement or a hip replacement, and you go into rehabilitation for maybe 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, and then you get better and you go back and live in your own home again. So there's the rehab part of it, and then there's also the long-term part of it, which most of us are familiar with. If somebody's had a debilitating stroke or vascular dementia and they need full care, then that's skilled nursing.
All right, and of course the skilled nursing part, and we'll get to that in just a moment, is sort of the part you want to plan for, because that's where it can get costly if you haven't looked into it seriously and planned for it. Now, as far as Freedom Village goes, the independent living part of that, I know that Freedom Village has the meals there. You got your award-winning chef and things like that. So explain that if somebody wants to move into Freedom Village and they want the independent living, they just want a more secure setting or whatever it might be, are there certain health requirements, or can somebody just decide, this is where I want to be, I don't want to cook my meals anymore, I'm totally mobile and independent at this point in my life?
There actually are health requirements. And so normally what somebody does is they send a form to their doctor, their doctor fills it out, faxes it back to Freedom Village, and then they end up having an interview with our Director of Health Services, Rhonda Bowler. She's worked for the company for 23 years, to determine if that person is okay. And so another way to look at it is you can't be a risk to yourself or a risk to other people. So let me give an example. An example would be, let's say somebody's getting kind of forgetful and they're leaving their burner on their stove on a regular basis. They would not qualify to move into Freedom Village, into independent living, because that would be putting the other residents at risk. So if somebody's in the later stages of a progressive disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, MS, arthritis, diabetes, they're not going to qualify for the independent setting. They would bypass independent living, and that assisted living would be a more appropriate setting for them.
So let me ask you along those lines that for the independent living part of it, can people move into a residence like Freedom Village and be totally independent, but that's just where they want to live now?
Absolutely.
They can, okay.
In fact,
All right.
the majority of people that move in are just like that. I mean, we've had people that
Great.
have moved in early 70s.
So you're not saying, no, you're too independent, we can't have you.
No,
but
no,
yes, okay.
no, yeah. But on the other side, kind of a scenario that can happen that a lot of people don't think about is the statistics is that when somebody hits age 85 years old, they have a 50-50 chance of having dementia.
Right.
So if you plan ahead and you move into Freedom Village when you're still okay, and then let's say you start getting some memory loss because you turn 85 or you turn 89 or you turn 90 and you're living there.
Okay.
We had residents move in 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and they were fine, and then they started getting some memory loss. So the key is to move in and get all of the Freedom Village in your long-term memory, so that you know where the dining room is,
okay.
so that you know your way around and how to navigate the building. And then even if you get a little bit of memory loss, you can still do well and still maintain an independent living without having to move to assisted living.
Okay.
If people wait too long, then they either won't qualify or they won't be successful moving in to an independent setting, and they're better off being in assisted living, which is a smaller environment.
Okay, however, if they move in and they need to transition to more assisted living, there you go. They're there already and ready to go. Am I right?
Yes. And a lot of people don't think about, well, what they mostly think about when you're making a move is, what do I need right now? And the big thing you want to consider is, what are your future health care needs going to be?
Right.
And at Freedom Village, we help transition people through the levels of care as they need it.
Okay.
But the goal is always that somebody remain as independent as possible.
Yeah, of course. Now, by the way, in the assisted living part, when you get to that level, is there something in their apartment there, in their own living space, that like a call button or something, or if they do fall or something like that?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I don't know if we call it call button, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, we have those in both. We actually have them in independent living, assisted
Great.
living, and skilled nursing.
That's
and those
great.
are very important.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
Now let's move on. If a senior or a couple qualified with a health assessment to move into Freedom Village and then change their mind, can they still qualify 1 year later if their health worsens?
Ah, very good question. So the answer is no. So what happens is that when somebody qualifies health-wise to move to Freedom Village, it only lasts for a few months. And that's a legal thing. And so if somebody actually changes their mind and go, no, I don't want to move in right now, I want to just keep living in my 55 plus community, I want to keep living in my home, then what ends up happening is you got to requalify.
Okay, all right.
And so in the requalification process, maybe somebody comes back a year later, and we've had this happen. And just in the last 3 months, we've had to say no to people that did not qualify health-wise. And it's not a fun thing to do. And a lot of people are surprised. They're like, well, I qualified a year ago. Why don't I qualify now? And it's because maybe their dementia progressed, they're just not independent anymore. And so it can be a little bit of a challenge. And I know that people want to wait to the last minute before they move, but it's really important that they plan ahead. I know that there was a couple here living in this area, and they had a caregiver coming in, taking care of them, one of my neighbors here, and the caregiver came in maybe 3 times a week. And they were starting to struggle a little bit because even with the caregiver coming in, it was hard to manage in their own home here. And so they started taking a look at places, and they went to a rental facility, they went to Freedom Village, they got a health assessment from their doctor, got that sent to the communities, and they didn't qualify to move into independent living anywhere. And they had waited too long. And so I really encourage people not to wait too long, because you will bypass your opportunity to move into independent living. You really want to move in when you can really enjoy it.
Okay.
The biggest thing that seniors say when they move in is, I should have moved in sooner.
All right. Let me ask you something that I'm confused about. Let's say they are no longer qualified for independent living, but they're at the level of the skilled nursing or skilled living. Or, can they qualify then to move into Freedom Village or places like Freedom Village at that level?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So at Freedom Village, our assisted
Okay.
living and skilled nursing are open to the public. So
Okay.
somebody can move directly from their home into assisted living or
Okay.
skilled nursing if we have room.
Okay.
So we're very popular. We have a really
Okay.
great reputation with hospitals and surgeons and doctors. And so it's for our residents first, and then it's for the public second.
And that's the whole point that you're trying to make here, that if you kind of look ahead, you may be there while you're perfectly independent, and then you're already at Freedom Village, you're already at there with people around you you know, and they know you, that when the time comes in your life you have to transition, you're already there.
Exactly.
And it's not going to be this huge blow to you, so to speak, because I can understand where for some people, they go from independent living and then boom, all of a sudden, even if they're in a nice place like Freedom Village, mentally that can be a little hard on them. But if they're already living there, they know the people, they know the setting, they know, it's just like, okay, you're transitioning now to this level. So that's
Right.
great. All right. The book is Your Senior Housing Options, and Diane's right here, she's the author. Tipstoseniors.com is the website, and of course, Freedom Village, right up the street, up there in Lake Forest, is it Lake Forest? Yeah, it is Lake Forest, that's right. I pass by there every day on El Toro. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
All right, good to see you, and we'll be right back.